Hey friends, I originally planned to publish this video a while ago, but I took a long time figuring out if I wanted to have audio on top of it, and in that time, I watched Book 4 of Infinity Train and learned more about why it would be the show's final season. I watched several roundtable videos about it, read articles and tweets, and watched the other seasons 2 more times while I debated on what I wanted to do with this speeddraw video. And then Owen Dennis, the creator of Infinity Train, actually tweeted about something I hadn't heard of yet. So today, April 29th of 2021, I am sharing this video as part of the Infinity Train fan push. It's the speeddraw I originally planned to share, but I'm also going to be talking about what I love about Infinity Train and why I think it's an important contribution to the culture of studio animation and why it should get all 8 books. Do I actually think I'll convince Cartoon Network and or HBO Max to actually do that? No idea. Probably not. But I want to contribute to the voices speaking on behalf of the show because it does mean a lot to me, and I think it deserves a much better fate than it has received. With that intro out of the way, and my sketch partway done, let me gush about why I love this series. I remember watching the pilot on Cartoon Network in 2016 as part of a program where the network would showcase a series of pilots. I grew up on Cartoon Network and other animation networks, so that was kind of like a semi-regular kind of exposure to stories that could get developed, but probably won't. I don't think I remember being as excited about one as much as I was for Infinity Train. I was immediately intrigued by the concept, I loved the characters, and the humor and pacing had me hooked. And when I found out a lot of people felt the same way as I did, and the show was actually getting greenlit for production, the hype was unreal. Also, a fun fact I just learned, on Wikipedia it says Dennis has also described Infinity Train as Saw for kids, and that each season is essentially a morality play based around machinery designed to help one overcome personal issues and appreciate life. And that just amuses me greatly. Book 1, called The Perennial Child, has themes that have to do with grief, childhood trauma, personal growth, and acceptance. Also, logic versus emotion, using logic to escape emotional problems. And I put frenemies. I don't remember why specifically. It's also lighthearted with heavy themes sometimes. The first book features Tulip as the central protagonist, accompanied by her train mates One-One and Atticus. She meets other denizens of the train on the way, and the pilot was basically repurposed as a full episode, which I just thought was really cool. I think this was a great introduction to the train, and it did an awesome job of showcasing the overall tone and establishing narrative expectations. You have someone on a train, they have a number, you find out why they have a number and what it does, not really why like anything else happens, and some basic mechanics and functions of the train with a fun plot twist at the end. I was very excited for book 2 as soon as this one ended, especially since I was curious to see how they would handle shifting the main character to a new one. Book 2, Cracked Reflection, has themes of identity, defying destiny, systemic discrimination, standing up for what you believe in, ACAB, oppression, dehumanization, autonomy, and trans rights. I added the last one because that was a personal thing. I feel like that's there. I don't care if anyone else does, I feel it. Again, there's this feeling of logic versus emotion, defiance versus conformity, collaboration versus competition. Again, I put frenemies. I don't know why I keep feeling like that's a thing. This one has darker themes than the previous book. Also, I wrote, side note, was Mrs. Graham, the lunch lady, the person you see on the train at first? Because Jesse mentions a lunch lady, and I just remembered like the first person that you see is a lunch, I don't know, I was like, is that? Anyway, I think book 2 had one of the best transitions from one main character to another in terms of helping the audience adapt with familiar themes and voices, but still changing a lot about the story and what would take center stage in the narrative. Tulip's former reflection, initially calling themselves MT but deciding on Lake as their name in the final episode, is exploring the train and living their best life. I mean, when they aren't having to deal with the Shimmer Pigs. I mean, the cops. Lake was introduced in book 1 and had emphasized that they were not Tulip, that they were their own person, and book 2 really explores that by having Lake as the main character, accompanied by Jesse, another train passenger with a number he has to sort through. Oh, and like Alan Dracula, who's a magical deer. I love this book. The cat also makes another appearance here, as well as some masked passengers that we get to learn more about in book 3, but we're still on book 2 right now, so The journey this book takes us on is one that I relate to personally a lot as a trans person, and as someone who struggled with the concept of identity, experiences with dissociation and disconnection. The train seems to be completely against letting Lake live how they want to. Everything is catered to the passengers, and there's one scene in particular that always gives me goosebumps and makes me take a deep contemplative breath, which is when Lake is screaming at the train's dinosaur VCRs and says, "I'm a person." Like, damn, that got me. There's so much I could say about this book in particular, like how it touches on systemic oppression, says the police, makes strong arguments for personal autonomy and respect, and has one hell of an animated sequence of a magic deer blowing up a narc. It's pretty rad. Book 3 is The Cult of the Conductor. It has themes of indoctrination, deceit, owning up to your mistakes, alienation, cult mentality, dehumanization, othering, corruption, refusal to grow, death, grief, community, and insecurity. Again, I put logic versus emotion, conformity and fear of rejection, unresolved trauma hurting others, and frenemies, which is just like, do I just see that everywhere? Is that just me? And also very dark themes. This one is definitely the heaviest book so far. I say so far because, like, hashtag save Infinity Train, please. I want to learn more about this world and cry over more characters. In Book 3, we're reintroduced to Grace and Simon, who initially showed up in Book 2 as antagonists that didn't see Lake as a person, but instead as a null. Null is the word that the Apex, Grace and Simon's cult, use to describe the train's denizens. Yeah, no, it's pretty rough. This is not a fun time. I got very calling other people NPCs vibes from this whole thing, which was a feeling that only intensified as the book progressed. Grace and Simon get separated from their group and find a child named Hazel, who is with her caretaker Tuba. Tuba is a denizen of a train, and as such, Grace and Simon do not view her as a person. They try to convince Hazel to leave Tuba behind, but Hazel refuses, and Grace convinces Simon to let Tuba join them. At least for a little while. Simon reluctantly agrees, and they make their way back. You learn a lot about Tuba, who lost her children and has been taking care of Hazel, who has a strange not glowing number on her hand, and even Grace, who we learn had a difficult time connecting with other kids when she was younger, and ended up developing an internalized sense of grandeur and false confidence as a self-defense mechanism. Simon also had an issue with, like, the cat leaving him to die. Over time, Grace begins to let her guard down and acknowledge her faults. Simon has looked up to Grace as a leader up until this point, and when he learns that her number is going down and she's no longer okay with murder, he puts his foot down and stages a coup. He tries to kill Grace several times, and would have probably tried to kill Hazel if he had known she was a denizen and not a human being. Doesn't make her less of a person. Simon ultimately he ends up getting one of the most gruesome deaths I've seen in animation, and Hazel leaves Grace after some poor choices on Grace's part. Another book where I have so much to say, but there's still one more book to talk about. Book 4, Duet, has themes of expectations, chaos versus order, known path versus unknown path, communication, working together, growing apart, taking your time, taking action, overcoming obstacles, passion versus stability. I also put logic versus emotion, individuality versus conformity, and frenemies again. Everyone's frenemies, that's all that exists. This one is definitely more lighthearted. There are heavier themes kind of like talked about, but it's nowhere near as intense as like the other ones. It makes sense that it would be like a good break before exploring more intense themes, which I'll get to more later. The final season, so far, is Book 4. Admittedly, I had some hopes for the season because it was the last season, so far. But after some reflection and learning new information, I think the tone and pacing of this season makes a lot of sense. You know, when they get the last 4 books of this series. Anyway, this book focuses on 2 dudes, Mingi and Ryan, who have been friends since they were babies. They grew up together in 2 very different households and ended up having very different philosophies about life after school. Mingi has plans for college, security, and stability. Ryan wants to jam out, live freely, and enjoy his life to the fullest. And then, you know, they both end up on the death train to find out how they're ruining their lives, and are wrong. The cool part about this book that I really loved is that it's set in the past before the previous books. We get to see bits and pieces of Amelia, a character from the first book that was the final antagonist and has been in all of the books, but I mean, I'm already talking about a lot. It's fine. Go watch the series. Anyway, we see Amelia when she's kind of friends with the conductor. Frenemies. Who is also one. Not one, just one. And one seems very, like, cold and distant in their approach to handling the passengers, but we don't see much of them, mostly just the results of their conversations and, like, disagreements. The character arcs for this book are pretty familiar, with one character, Ryan, wanting to act impulsively and emotionally, while the other, Mengi, wants to be slow and cautious and ensure the safety and long-lasting security of everyone involved. Neither is right or wrong in their approach. It's more like they keep butting heads instead of listening to each other in moments where they disagree. Like, these character arcs aren't really like life-changing necessarily, but some specific conversations, like Ryan and Mengi talking about touring as a band, and Mengi asking Ryan if there have been any other successful Asian artists doing what they do. I wasn't expecting it, but like, damn, yeah. And then Ryan's just like, yeah, that's why we gotta do it. And I was like, dang, yeah, I'm here for that. I'm here for that energy. Also, Kez kills me. I mean, she probably actually would on accident, but she's also hilarious and seems to genuinely want to be better, but just doesn't understand what she's doing wrong. Which, dang. Let me hug that bell, please. Speaking of bells, remember... Did you like that joke? That was... Okay. Anyway, I want to list some shows that remind me of Infinity Train that have been pretty successful, and show that series like Infinity Train should be given an opportunity to tell their story. Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, and Steven Universe Future, Adventure Time, She-Ra, Legend of Korra, The Last Airbender, Symbionic Titan, Samurai Jack, The Owl House, Teen Titans. Was there another one? I can't think of another one that doesn't have a lot of cursing. Well, did I miss your favorite example? Tell me in the comments below. I mean, yeah, algorithm or whatever, but actually I just finished all the shows I plan to watch, so if you want to, like, give me some suggestions in the form of what you think is a good example of why Infinity Train should get to continue, just go ahead and throw that down there. As a final note, I want to say why I think Infinity Train specifically is important. When I was thinking about how to explain why this series is important to continue, because realistically there are a lot of adult-centered cartoons with heavy themes, the phrase that came to mind was hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. As in, like, people who are hurting will hurt people who will then be hurting, who will continue to hurt people, and it's like a cycle. Infinity Train has done a phenomenal job of demonstrating the cycle of pain and how there isn't a bad person to blame for everything. In book 1, when Tulip has to confront Amelia and the cat shows her Amelia's tape, Tulip asks why she had to watch the tape, because before she could just see Amelia as the bad guy, the person who's just ruining everyone's lives and throwing everything off the rails. But after watching the video, Tulip has to acknowledge that Amelia is a person that is in pain and struggling to deal with the changes in her life. Just like Tulip. Just like every passenger on the train. Just like, I don't know, everyone at some point. Don't bring that Batman quote in here, I swear to God. I think Infinity Train is a great example of stories with morals that can be geared towards teenagers, young adults, and honestly older adults too. We need to stop thinking of cartoons as kid shows or adult cartoons specifically as edgy who can curse the most competitions. Animated series like this should be promoted and given the space to contribute to the culture of media, and specifically cartoons with mature themes. Not mature as in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, although those are also fine. Mature as in acknowledging you experienced trauma, and it's your responsibility to work through it in order to avoid hurting other people or even sabotaging yourself.
don't stop.
Let me explain something.
And I think that just about covers my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video and my speed draw. Tell me what your favorite or most heart-wrenching moment from Infinity Train was in the comments. Wait, hang on. I already asked about a comment thing. Instead, or both, go to Twitter or whatever and talk about your favorite Infinity Train stuff there. Use the hashtags #FinishInfinityTrain, #RenewInfinityTrain, #SaveInfinityTrain, or, you know, just the classic #InfinityTrain. I look forward to seeing what everyone makes today. I think this is gonna be awesome. I'll see y'all in the next car. Ash out.
We